Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe Lonyu is off the track. That steak is cooked.
A lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
My heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, we're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina. I'm now here with my fellow Formula One fans and friends, Steven, Jason, and Tristan. And today we're going to talk all things Jeddah. Very excited for this episode.
Very exciting stuff.
Jeddah round 2 underway, or well, done, I guess. Yeah, what am I saying? Marina, actually, shout out to you. You were there. Obviously, we are on spring break as students, and she went to Jeddah, so shout out to that. That's pretty cool.
New field
That
trip.
was pretty awesome. Got to meet a lot of F2 drivers on the Wednesday. Had a bit of craziness on Wednesday. Also met Nico Hulkenberg on the plane, which was crazy. He does now officially know about the podcast because I did mention it.
Hey,
Wait,
let's
was
go.
Was he flying first class? Was he flying first class? Okay, excellent.
That's the minimum Haas can do, I feel like, right? Like, I mean, if he's
I was
not
gonna say, come on now.
And then like kind of ending off the weekend back at the airport, I saw the Ferrari guys, all the engineers and the mechanics leaving, and they had, and I sent you guys this picture, they had the steering wheel from one of the cars with them.
No way.
I don't know why they would carry it with them and not just send it in the shipment with everything else, but that's beyond me. When we went through security, like all kind of together, he had to like open the box and show them everything, and he pulled it out, and I almost got a picture, but he put it back like right as my phone was coming through the security. So
maybe it needs to get calibrated or something. Maybe I don't know.
And they're all going back to Italy, so
yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a cool way to just kind of wrap up the weekend seeing them. I have to say, they were very nicely dressed considering they were about to spend the next 8 hours on a plane. All matching. Everybody has the same backpack, the same luggage, the same blazers with little hoodies that have the Ferrari logo. Everybody's wearing the same jeans. It was very cute, but it was nice.
If you're working for Ferrari, part of your itinerary when you sign on is you're going to be stylish as hell. That's just how it's
I
going
was
to
gonna say the official Ferrari loungewear, baby.
Right?
100%. Well, kind of going into kind of our breaking news and our headlines of the week. This week was rumor central. I mean, they were running wild, starting with kind of the Helmut Marko stuff where he told reporters and the press that he was likely to be suspended by Red Bull. I still don't know why. I don't know if you guys saw why or like the reason he gave. I just saw that, and it was really funny because he was the one that told the press. He was like, yeah, I'm probably going to be suspended by Red Bull.
They asked him. He's like, oh yeah, it's theoretically possible. Apparently people are going to try and get him for like leaking too much to the media, which is like his normal thing is like, you know, you ask Christian Horner why they fired Gasly. He's like, oh, we're all in on Gasly. Gasly was great, but he wasn't meeting our targets. If you ask like like Marco, he'll be like, oh yeah, Gasly too slow. He's gone. Like, he would always let out way too much. So like there's rumors like that's why he would be suspended, all the way ranging to like he fabricated evidence in like the Horner investigation. So
my
heard every single type of rumor from that camp this weekend.
I think at this point that Red Bull needs to adopt the doctrine of no PR is best PR. Like they don't there's too much of the rumor mill to be churning right now for one team in Formula One. Yeah. So like I mean,
a lot of times you hear like, oh, like bad press is still press, right? Like you're talking bad, but they're still talking about you. I think
how much is too bad
from the truth with Red Bull. And I like that you mentioned the Christian Horner investigation because one of the other rumors that was thrown around was that actually the employee that raised the allegations against Christian Horner was Jos Verstappen's girlfriend. Now, I haven't seen anything to back this up, but this was a huge rumor that flew around. I got it from my grandma who said this as well as on social media. It was insane.
Oh my gosh. Talk about keeping up with Red Bull at this point.
I trust grandma's wisdom. I'm trusting it.
Oh my god.
My favorite rumor of the weekend was like the interview with Max Verstappen. I think it was Naomi Schiff that did it. She was like, "Oh, Max, if Marco leaves, will you leave?" He said, Marco's been so important to the team. He built the team. Not one mention of Christian Horner. It was very clear, like, Max and Marco were like this, like they're attached at the hip. So if Marco would leave, Max would probably leave too, or at least be like so against the management. That was refreshing to actually hear somebody say stuff like that. That was not a rumor.
Yeah.
That was what Max said. But
100%.
yeah, no, that just only fueled the flames until Red Bull CEO showed up, Mr. Mislav.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, Max is just so direct.
Right.
Max is so direct. He told them exactly what I think it's kind of what people want to hear. He was direct. He was like, Helmut Marko, he's the head of the junior driver program. He was the one that brought him into F1 at just 18. He was there from day one. Max has talked a lot about these past couple weeks as the investigation went on, was that he thinks that the crucial part of the team, those kind of key members that have been there from the very beginning, people that were recruited by Dietrich that started the team. I mean, Helmut Marko has been there since day one with Dietrich Mateschitz. They worked on the team together. These people need to stay in place. They need to stay there. And if they're not there, I'm not there. And that was kind of the moral of the story from that interview. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Naomi or if it was one of the other people from Sky, but it was definitely someone from Sky who talked about that. Kind of circling back very quickly, Christian Horner allegation, the employee who alleged the inappropriate behavior was suspended. I have a hot take on this. And my hot take is that this is not necessarily like a totally bad thing. Like, people are talking about like, oh, they should never have done this. This is horrible. Like, this looks terrible for men and like this is like some male dominated sport and everything like that. In my opinion, her suspension, if the allegations were denied and weren't true, is valid. If an employee of any organization brings untrue, false allegations with essentially the intention of defamation, like bringing bad press, why wouldn't you suspend that person? And I understand the other side of it. If her allegations are true, makes sense, right? I mean, like, makes sense what people are saying is like it's bad. But if they're false, it's totally valid for them to suspend her, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that they would have to look into further, just to be like, well, what was the intent? Was the intent to cause defamation, or is it just an honest mistake? But even so, it's kind of just like, that doesn't look well on you as an employee, that you're trying to get, you're finding dirt for an employee that isn't true. I mean, either way, it's not good luck. So, I mean, either way, I can kind of see why she got suspended.
Assuming just following what we know in terms of, like, obviously Red Bull came out with a statement and said, like, things have been settled, like, it's okay or whatever, and she has been suspended. I actually think the suspension probably isn't in a negative connotation. Like, it might just be like, hey, like, let's give you some time off. We're gonna, like, every party's gonna settle in. We'll go into this with a new light, maybe in a month or so or whatever, and we'll be chilling. I'm very curious about, I don't even know if we've gotten into this part of it with the Christian Horner saga of, like, why does the FIA not, I don't know if they were part of the investigations, but why don't they have an angle to make sure that this employee is being, like, properly investigated, and or that Christian is properly being investigated?
Yeah.
Because, like, that's the morals of the sport.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there were. I just didn't see anything.
Yeah, there is they didn't have, like, an official, I mean, they did kind of have an investigation. They're looking into it, like, as soon as, like, that email with the apparent leaks of the chats came out. They did look into it. Both Stefano Domenicali, the F1 CEO, and the president of FIA met with Christian Horner and apparently some other Red Bull personnel. Just, like, talk to them about it, see what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this is kind of like a Red Bull issue, and it was a Red Bull investigation. But it reflects badly on the sport when stuff like this and rumors like this go around.
That's what I mean.
So, yeah.
I knew that for sure the FIA was going to have some, like, they have done something, but I just didn't see anything.
Yeah, so it wasn't like totally official. It kind of just seemed like the heads of the FIA were like, "Oh, what's happening? Tell us." Yeah. And that was kind of it.
Your argument is exactly the argument that's been made time and time again by Zach Brown and other team principals. Like, we need this transparency. We need F1 and the FIA to come to a conclusion about the investigation, not just Red Bull telling us, like, oh, it's not true, because within an organization, it would be so easy for them to just cover it up and say that they're not true when they are. Not to say that that is the case, but it is very easy for them to do that within the corporation. It's not so easy when you have external parties involved. But who knows? I feel like this, like I said a couple weeks ago, it's not the end of the story.
Hopefully I wish it would be over now. All this extra drama is not good.
It's going to make for a great Drive to Survive episode, though.
Oh
So-
man,
Right.
tell me about it. They
I hope
can
they
make-
cover
I mean,
it. Imagine if everything comes out a year later in Drive to Survive.
That'd be
I
so
mean,
awesome.
honestly, they should do like a separate documentary, low key. I feel like
Investigative journalism needs to happen.
Yes.
yeah, I think that'd be cool. Especially not just with like, the investigation, but also with like Helmut and all that good stuff. I think that would be a pretty interesting documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move into Jeddah and the race. Like you guys said, I was there, and it was awesome. Free practice 1 was kind of a bust. It's not a representative session. So every week I feel like it's the same story. It's like, not representative, doesn't really matter. However, Carlos Sainz showed up 30 minutes before practice started. Got in the car, was in pain, but set a great lap. Apparently, he definitely already had appendicitis by then, which is,
for sure.
in my opinion, incredible.
Yeah, for a missing media day on the Thursday. Like
Yeah.
usually,
Yeah.
like I've heard of drivers missing the media day before, saying that they're sick. I'm like, oh well, what driver really wants to do media day? If they
Yeah.
have a cold, they're not gonna show up.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
but they're gonna show up to drive the car. So it's like super impressive. He showed up.
Yeah.
Are they not
Yeah.
fined for missing media day, or the team fined?
I think they are. Like if they're able to be there,
Yeah,
like
I
they
think
will
they,
be
like-
fined if they miss an interview. Like they need to do a pre and like post race. Like if you're angry and you just storm out of the media pen, you're getting fined.
But
Like you need to say
Jason-
after a race. in the
Jason, I
media
have a
pen.
doctor's note.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Like that.
Clearly, Ferrari will get a pass for that one.
Yeah.
But FP2 was kind of my highlight of the weekend because right in front of me comes along Carlos Sainz with Lewis Hamilton right in front of him, just as Logan Sargent is coming on a flyer. Lewis gets out of the way to let Sainz through, however, fails to notice that Logan Sargent is right next to him. Logan almost crashed into the wall. What did you guys think about the $15,000 fine that was issued to him and the team? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it was enough? Not enough?
Was it enough? I don't know, man.
I was gonna say the
The
question.
team
would have
should
known-
have. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The-
I mean, again, I saw it live. Like, I was watching free practice, and it was on like the highlights and all that. And Sainz, from the looks of it, like yeah, he got out of the way for Sainz, but like Sainz wasn't on a lap, right? He wasn't on a flying lap. So the two of them were just kind of like just jockeying around for no reason. Made the
Yeah,
track
literally.
double wide. They were too wide into the turn. Then yeah, Sargent comes around. I don't want to blame Lewis directly because like I feel like fundamentally this goes back to like communication. Like I don't understand how there's got to be a spotter up on a spotter stand or somebody's telling them that they
Oh,
see
Definitely
Logan
the
Sargent.
team's fault. It's
Yeah, so
definitely
they
the team's
see
fault.
Logan Sargent flying behind him. How is he not like, hey, you might want to accelerate for a second here because you got a car behind you and you're gonna cause a problem. Like I
The
don't
team
know.
should have let him
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's why I feel like the $15,000 fine. I feel like Lewis should be coming into the garage with the check and throwing it on Toto's desk and being like, "This is yours. You can take care of that one."
Exactly.
they will.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I totally agree with Tristan on that one. I mean, of course, I don't think they should be going too wide like that because I just think, of course, inevitably you're gonna have a third car come up. You're gonna be like,
Yeah,
oh,
and Lewis
shoot.
went onto the racing line. Like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
he was
Well,
trying
that's
to
the
get out of the
thing,
way of
too.
Sainz, he like went on the racing line instead
Yeah.
of off. But
So
by
doesn't
then
it-
it's like it was too late.
Like, since when do you leave? Do you go on the racing line to let a car through? That didn't make sense. But I also agree with you guys on like the communication part. It's like the team should have told him that Logan was coming. And
Yeah.
usually you'll get like if you listen, like I like to watch the race and I'll listen to Max's radio or whoever, and they'll give you a thing. They'll be like, during quali, they'll be like, Checo at 2 seconds behind you. And they usually do a countdown. Usually it's about 5 seconds, 2 seconds. He's, like, so they know that's coming and the drivers
Yeah.
can figure it out. They know when right around. It is tricky though in Jeddah because for the drivers, because there's so many blind spots. There's so many blind spots. So yeah, I don't think we can blame Lewis for that. We talked about Carlos Sainz. We talked about his appendicitis. That led to Ollie Behrman, who qualified on pole for F2, driving FP3 and qualifying in the race, taking over in that Ferrari for the rest of the weekend.
What a guy!
Shocked. Anybody
My
else
gosh.
I mean,
I think
highlight
I
of
said
the
this
weekend to me.
first couple episodes of the podcast. It was like, this was not on my 2024 bingo card again.
I don't think it was on anybody's.
Nope. You're really gonna have to make a new one now.
Last time a driver got appendicitis, it was what, Nick DeVries showed up.
That's what I was gonna
Put
say.
the Williams
Nick DeVries
P9.
came in.
Yeah.
What everybody
Let's
on social media was like, let's not forget the crazy turn of events that happened after the last driver had an appendicitis.
Yeah.
But De
I was gonna say-
Vries was like 9 years older than Ollie Behrman. And like Ollie Behrman did not have the neck training. He did not have fully the reactions. Like those cars are so much faster. But he must have really impressed Ferrari. Like he did 2 tests for Haas last year during free practice. And he was on for 6 free practice sessions this year with Ferrari. Now 7 because of this weekend. But like that's more than any other team and young driver at Ferrari, a team which is competing for like second, maybe first, probably not. Like to give up 6 free practice sessions, that's insane.
Yeah.
So obviously he has potential. They believe in him, and he proved himself right this weekend. You know.
Yeah. Let's just hope he doesn't follow the De Vries line. Let's just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, obviously.
What also just shows like how important some like the sim work was, because he does a lot of sim work for Ferrari as kind of one of their development drivers, one of their reserve drivers, but also on the other end, he did drive that same track in F2 all weekend long. So he did have 2 practice sessions. He had qualifying. But still, you're getting thrown in the car last minute. I mean, I would judge him pretty much equally to how you judge Nick DeVries or Liam Lawson when they jumped into the cars last minute. And yeah, I think he did incredible.
Yeah.
However, another thing that happened in that practice session was Joe Guan Yu crashed right behind me.
Yeah.
You
That was
just
not
lost
pretty.
it all by his lonesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
the thing
just,
I'll say
what,
is, I mean,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, he was inches from that wall. I mean, of course, that's his fault the other day, but like, you could tell that wall messed him up big time.
Big time. I mean, what, he just had some tire lockup, right? And then just...
Yeah, well, there's so many drivers that like clipped it just barely, and like were able to like Oscar in qualifying, he was able to save it, just barely nicked it. There are other drivers that clipped it, and it was game over. Maybe you didn't hit the wall, but the lap was over for sure. Kind of like Max in 2021. But that led to him not being able to take part in Q1.
They tried to get him out. That was crazy.
He was very
I can't believe
close.
they tried to get him out.
Yeah, well, they put the car back together, and they were able to like get him out onto the track, but he crossed the line before he was able to do a lap. The time ran out. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was going to be very, very tight. I mean, if they could have done it. I mean, considering Valtteri was P16, I don't even know if they would have been able.
Would have been worth it. Yeah.
So yeah, but
just
like I said,
butterfly effect.
Both Alpines also out expected, and Logan Sargent in P19. Q2. Nico Hulkenberg went camping. It's really funny. Really,
he did.
He just got stuck there. I don't quite know why, but they showed him like at the end of qualifying, still just sitting on the chair, just hanging out.
His car, yeah.
And
they tried to do a tow there too. Like the Magnussen gave him a slipstream down the front straight. And I guess it was for nothing because his car blew up 2 corners later.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you know what, they tried.
They were like trying to figure out this, like, what are they doing? Like, because it's not traditional for you. There's a lot of tracks where it's like they practice the slipstream because of how effective it is. But at this track, not one other team did a slipstream. And then the one team that did it, the car broke down 2 turns later. So it was like,
A
what was the
message.
point?
Yeah, right.
I saw it. It was so funny to me that like Haas tried strategy this weekend. It's just like they tried the slipstream. Their car wasn't quite where they thought it was.
I have an
gonna be.
idea.
Yeah,
Let's think
Hey,
about
guys.
this critically.
Yeah. Yeah. guys. Let's try this strategy thing. It's pretty cool, right?
Working out for a lot of guys.
Yeah. Sir, your car though.
Think about it.
Shoot, I didn't account for the extra 20 horsepower. What the heck?
Yeah,
It's not the hat. Well, they had very questionable strategy all weekend long. It did pay off in the race.
Now, listen, they were the only, and again, we're going to get into the race. We're going to do all that. Haas made that race interesting. I know it's so lame to
really
say. Them and Ali were the only 2 reasons I was like, oh, this is actually really sick. Literally, again, we're going to get into it. I'm so excited to talk about why they made it interesting, but yeah.
Yeah.
Credit where credit's due.
We can very quickly wrap up in the qualifying section. I know everybody's very excited to talk about the race. Ollie Behrman, that was the end of his rookie Q1 session, as well as Alex, Kevin, Danny Rick, and like we said, Nico Hulkenberg, who did not set a time in Q2. Yuki went through to Q3, which was quite impressive. And my dad, he looked towards me. He was like, Danny Ricciardo's career is over, because he's been consistently behind Yuki for the last 2 races. And even kind of at the end of last year, he had a couple races where he was better, but a couple races where he was worse. It's like, if you're just right along as good as Yuki, then there's no way he's going to Red Bull with that kind of performance.
He needs to show up in Australia. And if he doesn't, I mean, it's just going downhill slowly for him.
Yeah.
Well,
it's fascinating. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, watching, Drive to Survive, it's even watching, oh gosh, I'm going to forget his name, Christian Horner. He was saying, I don't know if you guys saw this. I was like, yeah, Danny Ricciardo's his favorite driver.
Yeah, he said it so much.
Yeah.
He loves Danny.
Yeah, well, he was just saying, how since the last few seasons, he just hasn't been the same Danny Ricciardo. And you can really say that since he left Red Bull, which is, it's just interesting to me. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I still remember Drive to Survive 2018. He was like, I can't believe Daniel left. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I thought we were buddies.
Well,
and he left.
Daniel, again, prove me wrong, but did Daniel leave, or did he?
Yeah, he left in 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
He did okay at Renault.
Yeah,
he did pretty good. He actually showed up, Hulkenberg and Ocon. Those 2 aren't slouches at all.
No.
And then couldn't get to grips with McLaren, and I don't know. We'll see how this year's goes. He's got the longest F1 calendar in history to make it up, but right now it's not looking too good.
Yep.
Yeah. I just think he's done too much in too little of a time. Yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
So
no, you're good.
I mean, being like, okay, one's P13, one's P14, it's fine for now, but I think specifically in qualifying, he's gonna have to up his game, going into the next couple races. And once that car is at a point where it's good to score points, he's got to be scoring points consistently scoring more points than Yuki. So, anyways, as I said in my day in the life video, if you haven't checked that out, check that out. Max Verstappen, as many people expected, did take pole. 34th of his career, which means he passes Alan Prost and Jim Clark for pole position records. I think he's 4th or 5th now, all-time pole position number. It's crazy. Yeah. And at the end, kind of wrapping up the race, but so many records this weekend.
We're literally gonna get to the point where it's not you saying who Max passed; it's Max passed himself.
Yeah.
We're literally gonna get to that point.
Well, that's what's about. I mean, assuming he wins the next 2 races, that's what we're going to be talking about. Max passes his own record for most wins in a row. It's incredible. And I told my dad, was like, so boring. Max wins again. What? Why am I not surprised? Or Max is on pole again. Why am I not surprised? It's not always you get to experience this level of greatness. And trust me, I know I'm saying that I'm a Max Verstappen fan, but I think as much as people hate the dominance, I think we've had so many areas of dominance. We had the Schumacher, we had the Hamilton. Let Max have his turn, and then we'll move on to Leclerc or Lando or whoever else comes up through the ranks.
Marina,
Hamilton again,
I
but
don't
in
know
red.
if we've ever asked, who do you have a second favorite driver in the field?
Sergio Perez.
Oh yes, certainly.
Yeah, I absolutely love Checo. He's phenomenal. You know, he's
Phenomenal.
such a great driver.
He just lets Max win every race. It's great.
He's so nice. He's such a nice guy.
What a good team.
Yeah, totally. I think I'd have to go with like Lando or Charles.
Lando, okay.
I
was gonna guess Charles, but I wasn't so sure.
Yeah, like one of those
That's
two.
That's a good point.
Nobody that has a rivalry with Max can ever be your second favorite. Like if you have like a very strong favorite driver, I feel like I can never be a Lewis 1, Max 1, Lewis 2, or whatever.
No,
that would be wild.
I think Lando and Charles both have really good potential to win world championships in the future. I really like Carlos too. And they're just like, they're good with media. I think it helps. Like anyone, I saw this weekend so many Charles fans, so many Lando fans. When a driver is open to the media, when he's like Lando, he's sarcastic, he's always joking around, he's doing stuff. I think it helps. It always helps the fan base connect better. So,
for sure.
I will say, I've been seeing, I don't know about y'all, I've been seeing a ton of those Max Verstappen like Heineken commercials.
I've seen a lot of them too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Heineken's gone all out. They had Hakkinen in one, Mika Hakkinen. They had Verstappen when he drove like that Mustang. That was pretty cool.
I was gonna bring that up. I'm like, that's like a little Easter egg because they're gonna have Ford powertrains.
Yeah, I wonder if that was intentional or not. That was pretty cool.
Probably intentional. I feel like people, like, you always think about these little tiny minuscule things that people will pick up on them, like little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's move into the race. Tristan, tell us why K-Mag single-handedly fought.
So the man was driving like a bat out of hell for no reason. So I mean, obviously, I don't know, for people that did watch the race, we had the 2 10-second penalties. First of which I think was completely justified against was it Albon, right? I believe so.
Yes.
One was Tsunoda. I think the other was
second
Albon,
one was Tsunoda. First one was Albon. First one he just pinched him into the wall. I fully believe like he was in a blind spot. He probably couldn't fully see where Albon's front left tire was, but he just basically was maybe willing to push him into the wall, like to make the corner. And then obviously the FIA gave him a 10-second penalty. Yeah. And then the second one was just he got a pass on Tsunoda going into, I forget exactly what turn number it was. And I got a little bit off the racing surface. I think that penalty was a little harsh. My opinion. But this set up long term for the last half of the race for him to become the ultimate teammate, the ultimate wingman. Hulkenberg was about 18 seconds ahead of him, and he was holding up about like 5 cars in the tail end of the lead pack, right?
And he started with the DRS train all the way back. And for me, it was incredible how, I mean, yes, he was driving aggressively, but how well he was able to hold up the rest of the field, because we're talking about a pass.
Yeah.
My favorite part was like when we went on board and the commentators, I think it was Crofty, pointed out like Magnussen was lifting right after the second turn to like slow down the other cars. Like he would lift and like block them, and they couldn't do anything because it was like too tight through that section of turns.
Oh my god! They went to James Vowles, I think, in the middle of the race, and they were like, "So, like, how are you guys feeling in terms of like whatever?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're pretty pissed off at the Haas for slowing us all down here, but you know, we're trying our best."
We have a lot more pace than he does, so like I don't know what's happening, but also. It reminded me a lot of Abu Dhabi 2021 with Checo holding up Lewis.
Yes, holding up Lewis.
Yep. I was fully expecting Nico Hulkenberg on the radio being like, Kevin is such a legend, like radio message at the end of the race, because they weren't able to hit Nico and still have him come out, and he finished in the points. So that's crucial for Haas, given that, you know, I mean, Kevin was holding up, the RBs, he was holding up Williams, he was holding up Alpines. All those people are essentially their competitors, right? Like that's who they're really fighting with, and they've all
finished. All those teams, first one to score a point is Haas.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
they're what,
That's
6th
Woo.
in the constructors right now because of
that's
that. That's a
insane,
Seventh.
massive win for them.
Oh yeah.
man. Once they
I
get
think
the strategy
we're talking
thing figured
about
out,
1 point.
man.
I think it's crazy we're talking about 1 point.
Yeah, but it's us. I mean,
It's
I know,
us,
I
though.
know. But
Yeah.
like we're talking about 1 point could be like huge for the rest of the season.
You know what's
Yeah.
really funny is I think I saw a poll on Twitter, and it was like, because so again we can talk about more of the race results as the race went on, but obviously Ali Berman actually had a pretty good race. He finished, I believe, 7th. People were saying like, who wins at the end of the season? Ali Berman's one race result or Alpine? As
I
a whole?
was gonna bring that up.
I
Yeah,
thought it was so funny.
yeah.
No, Logan Sargent, he might end up 21st in a 20 driver championship again.
Yes.
As disappointing as
Wow.
that is, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
There's
Well, I
always
like
a chance.
I like that you mentioned the Alpines because Pierre Gasly was the very first retirement of the year. I believe it was like a gear shift issue.
Yep,
think
trans
after
issue.
lap one.
Yep.
Some with the trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I was laughing so hard.
so much. It was so expected. I was like, if you had asked
Yeah.
me a week like after testing, kind of before the first race, who's the first retirement going to be? I would have told you Alpine right away.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
easy.
mean, they're struggling so much, and every time we hear from them, it feels like it's getting worse and not getting better.
Yeah.
But also all the other teams took such big steps. I feel like even like Stake they still took a step. Maybe not compared to their competitors, but everybody moved forward.
I mean,
They went backwards.
like Joe had a good weekend last weekend. He was setting up to have a good weekend this weekend.
Yeah.
And again, for some reason, Stake has forgotten how to pit a car, and that's just what's going on here. And he I think finished literally in almost last.
He was last.
He was last. Well, there you go.
Yep.
No, and again, it's credit where credit's due, partially to Alpine. Ocon had an okay race. Like, he was just outside the top 10 for like most of the race, but like, still, for a team that finished, I think, 4th in total points about 2 years ago, for the constructors, it's just crazy. The downfall is crazy.
I literally think their car is slower lap by lap than it was last year.
Man.
Oh yeah.
I heard that somewhere. Like they've made the least amount of gain. They might even stepped back in some places.
I heard that. I think Jolyon Palmer did the calculations, and they were questioning him. He was like, "How did you do that when there was a safety car last year and there wasn't one this year?" And they were like making a whole big. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they are slower this year than they were last year, and that's why it's so evident. Because yes, they were fighting kind of at the top of that for those last couple points, but like very consistently last year. I mean, Pierre and almost finished kind of, I think it was on the podium or like 4th in Australia last year with all the chaos. And then they crashed.
Yeah, they got that Monaco podium. That was crazy.
They both Alpine had 2 podiums last year, one with Pierre and one with Esteban. So it's just crazy.
Well, part of the problem is too, I mean, of course it's going to get better with time, but no one really works at Alpine right now. So
Good point.
Everybody's leaving. Did you see what Otmar posted? Omar Safnar.
Oh my god, he said something.
He posted a selfie of himself, captioned it "Not Jeddah," and he has like this crazy smirk on his face.
Dude.
Yeah.
Site like at the time.
It says "Not Jeddah." He posted this like right after the race. So
man, you gotta imagine all the former employees are just sitting around like a hot tub
like,
or something. Just
I wish I could be him right now. Get it out of here.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like in hindsight, I'm sure he's very, very happy with how things turned out. He would not want to be taking the brunt for everything that's going on right now.
No.
Oh yeah.
Let's move to someone who had I would call a really good race. The McLarens. Lando had that jump start, but no further action. It didn't really show. Is that what you found, Jason? That wasn't all.
Yeah, the official reason is that like all the cars have a transponder on them, and it matches up with the grid box. So if the transponder on the car like leaves the grid box, then it's a penalty jump start. His didn't move enough for it to be counted as a penalty. Like his car was still in the grid box, even if you move forward like slightly. Like you could always move forward as long as you don't roll past the grid box starting point. Yeah. So it wasn't a jump start. It was Almost. But yeah, no further action. He didn't move far enough for it to count.
See, from like a technical point of view, that makes sense. From a logical point of view, he came to a stop. You know what I mean? Like, I would be of the opinion, if he kept moving for sure, then that's absolutely. And
he actually got a horrible start. After
that's what I'm saying.
Like, he stomped on the brakes, and then the lights went out, and he was not ready for it.
Don't lie, baby.
So like, I was like, dude, if they penalty him in any way, shape, or form, that's so messed up. I was like,
no advantage.
He was hesitant to talk about in interviews because he wasn't sure if the decision was final or not. I think at the time. But that's essentially what he said. He was like, I like went and then I stopped, and then right when I stopped, it went again. So there was no advantage from it. I actually lost out on the start. I think it was fair. It was really fair. But he did lead the race for quite some time because of Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
Lance Stroll, it's strolling time, dude. That's what
he took a stroll
right into the wall.
My favorite part about that was him crashing into the wall and going on the radio saying, I crashed, but I'm okay. And the team's like, can you bring it back? He goes, I'm in the wall. What do you want?
When they pan to the radio, like in the middle, like when it was happening. Like I was with some buddies actually watching the race, and one of my friends, Devin, if he's listening, he was literally talking about Stroll on lap 6. He was like, dude, like the kid's good. It sucks he has a paid seat, but I want him to get better. I want him to be like, I want him to excel and do all that. Straight into the wall. Like he turns like I couldn't believe it.
And especially it's fresh off of the wrist thing from last season. Like, oh, this is gonna be his return season, he's gonna do great into a wall.
It's been disappointing in this new era of cars since 2022. He's just been not on it. Like this guy is a 3-time podium finisher, pole position, skipped Formula 2, came in super young into the sport. But still, he hasn't been on top of it since 2022. He's been showing up, albeit by world champion teammates, but he should be closer than he is now.
Well, the thing is, too, I feel like he's going to have some pretty good showings in qualifying. It's just, when it comes to race time, he
needs to step it up.
Yeah.
7th year in F1.
That's crazy.
That's actually is crazy.
Wow.
I didn't think so.
But, moving on to Lando's teammate, Oscar kept... Oh, yeah, I guess both McLarens had quite a fight with the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Because Oscar was held up by Lewis for such a long time. I mean, he was stuck there behind Lewis for so long. And he was getting so frustrated. My grandma, she texted me.
He tried, though.
Well, my grandma texted me. She goes, this is what I'm talking about Oscar not being like conniving or not being like a good like person or whatever, because he kept coming on the radio being like, that's dangerous driving or da-da-da. And my grandma was like, what are you talking about? Like, that was so clean racing. And I agree. Like, I'm not a Lewis fan, but that was really clean racing. Oscar just
getting outclassed. That's all.
He was getting shown up by a 7-time champ. I mean, not much else to there. He tried to get past him a couple times, and I don't know. It's weird. Like 2 times he tried to get around him, and then he just overshot the corner because he couldn't slow down in time. It's like,
I mean, it ended up working out in the end. He ended up finishing 4th, and Lewis ended up like 9th. So it did end up working out in his favor. But that was really weird. He just could not make any moves stick.
Well, it was clear that the alternate strategy was not the right strategy, given that we only had the one safety car. Because what ended up happening was Lando and Lewis and Joe and Nico, they didn't pit. And so there was no other safety car. So everybody got these cheap stops and they had to pit at the end. But Lando and Lewis had quite the battle towards the end. Lewis was trying so hard to get past him, and they were coming up on Ollie Behrman, and everybody was like, "Oh, come on, you got this, Ollie!" And he ended up making it work. He did finish second, which is insane.
I do gotta say, I absolutely hated that call by McLaren. They stayed out like that. I mean, the chances of that working is like 0. It's just like. And then, of course, as a fan who doesn't want to see Max win, of course, I'm just like, well, okay, now you're really just helping Max out now. It's like, of course, you're going to have Lando there in first, he's going to cruise, he's going to do his thing. Then you're going to have Max coming out behind him, like the racing bull that he is, and
Yeah.
just get like the extra like 10, 20 seconds ahead of the field because McLaren tried to be cute with strategy. It's like, come on, guys, we're better than this.
Also, I was actually surprised how well Lando was able to keep Max behind, given that Max was on like fresher tires.
No,
and he was
yeah.
able, I guess the warm up on those fresh tires isn't as easy after
I mean, it
every
was
safety
mediums
restart.
versus hards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was going to take a little while for those hards to really activate. That's what I was telling my buddies. I was like, he'll probably hang on for at least maybe 6 or 8 laps, and then the inevitable will happen.
I was going to say, it's delaying the inevitable, literally. And I just want to say too, Tristan, we see this all the time in NASCAR. When you have people who stay out in the front of the field, and then, you have different racing, but it's the same concept. It's like you have guys on older tires trying to stay out and
I would actually argue it's a better strategy in F1 than it is in NASCAR, because NASCAR with F1, like guarding corners is a lot easier, I feel, whereas NASCAR is a big wide open oval most of the time, and like if you got better tires, you're gonna go flying right by the guy. That's just how it goes. So I respect the strategy in F1 more. NASCAR, I hate it every time. It's like, this is not gonna work. Like,
I mean, it worked for K-Mag, but
it worked for K-Mag, so
but exigent circumstances on that one. The other thing, and I like that you mentioned kind of the warm up, was that they came on the radio to Lando, and as he's leading the race, he hasn't pitted, and he's starting to drop back. I think Max had just passed him, and they go like, so the plan is to pit in I don't know how many laps, and then I want an easy warm up. He goes, I'm going to have Lewis behind me. I don't think I'm going to be able to warm these tires up very easily. Like, flat out. I mean, give me soft tires for 2-3 laps to the end, and I'll push flat out for the rest of the race. It was like, it was funny. But I did mention Ollie Behrman, P7 points on debut, was incredible.
Such a great effort. I mean, one of the highlights of the weekend.
Yeah. I also just think he's such a nice kid. I say kid because he's 8. I mean, he's my age, and he was doing the driver's parade, and his team was there. His Prima team from F2 was there waving at him, and he was like, "Sorry, give me a sec." He's like in the middle of an interview. He's like, "Give me a sec. Like, I'm seeing my team. My team is here to cheer me on." And every time he was questioned, interviewed, whatever, he brought up Carlos. He's like, I wish Carlos a really good recovery. I'm like so glad to be driving, but this is his seat. I mean, he was asked if he would be at the race in Australia, and he said, "Well, F2 is racing there, so I'll be there, but this is Carlos's seat, and if he's better, it's all his. If he's not, I'm happy to fill in, but it's his seat, And
there you go. Class act.
He's a super cool guy.
His dad was funny to watch.
I was gonna bring that up.
Sorry. Oh no, I took it from you. That's why.
No. It's all good. It's all good. No, like I was just gonna say, like his face, like during the race, he was just like,
oh yeah, he's on edge.
Yeah.
Gotta lock in. It was cool to see that, like, even after the race, Lewis Hamilton congratulated him. He said Sebastian Vettel sent him a text message. He did everything he needed to do. He improved from 11th to 7th between himself and Ferrari's strategy.
Yeah.
They actually, made it improved. Beat Lewis Hamilton. Imagine saying that. You beat Lewis Hamilton out on track.
I mean, if you would have
even Ferrari chairman John Elkann was there to watch the whole thing. Like, that was probably super cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you even said like a week ago, you would have been saying Ollie Behrman makes his F1 debut at 18 years old in Ferrari because Carlos Sainz had appendicitis, goes on to beat Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris in the race. You would never have expected it, and it was kind of like it's for the storybooks, It's like it's history. And he's the youngest ever Ferrari driver and the third youngest ever F1 driver. So it's incredible. Very quickly.
I was gonna say too. I mean, he took Lewis Hamilton's thing of like the first Brit driver for Ferrari in like a few decades, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
to check on that.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Real quick, let's talk about Checo. He had an unsafe release, but other than that, I felt like, and again, I hate saying this. I really
favorite driver. Come on now.
Really good race. He was a lot closer to Max. He came back at Max kind of in the closing stages. Yes, it was only by like a second or a second and a half, but he did come back at Max. And he also witnessed Daniel Ricciardo's spin on the last lap, which I thought was hilarious.
Poor Danny Rick, man. Oh,
Just
you hate
not
to
his
see it.
bag. Check out
Yeah,
the
no,
race.
he did everything he needed to do last weekend and this weekend.
Yep.
Like, finish P2, beat Charles Leclerc. Like, that was really it.
As a avid supporter for Carlos Sainz to Red Bull, it's really killing me here because he's doing what the team want him to do. They want him to be consistently P2. Now, it's really early in the season to be making any kind of decisions because last year it was the same. Last year after Jeddah, they were even on points. They each had
He's winning races, yeah.
they each had a second place between him and Max. But he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's fulfilling his role in the team as that second place to Max, consistent. He took the qualifying was really good too. He's had some iffy qualifyings in the past, but it was really solid.
Yeah.
Probably man, Charles Leclerc also had a good race. He was so lonely. He talked about he was like quite a boring race from my side. Because it was just him and his lonesome for majority of the race. But he did take the fastest lap. Which
Very
was nice.
Extra points.
Extra points.
Finishing off, Max, like we talked about, 9th win in a row, 100 podiums. The funniest stuff was him in the press conference, and they go, well, this is your 100th podium out of 188 races. Any thoughts on the statement or the achievement? He goes, that's 88 missed podiums.
I was going to say that.
Max Verstappen moment ever. Like,
No, can't have them all, Max. I'm sorry.
Have it all.
Can't have them all.
Yeah,
there was also
impressive stuff regardless. But
yeah.
I mean, to think that like what, so 188 total starts, correct?
Yeah,
and
188 total starts, 100 podiums,
and more than 50% ratio of those starts is on a podium.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's pretty insane.
Pretty crazy.
It's crazy. I don't think anyone has that kind of a ratio. I mean, I'm sure Lewis's is up there. Given
Probably
how
up there. I don't know if it's I don't know.
McLaren had a rough time between like 2009 and then they had some like up and down years, but yeah, crazy.
Well, another really funny press conference moment, at least to me, they were talking about Max's streaming because Max, he's always streaming, and it was like 2 a.m. in Jeddah or something, and he was still streaming, and he was hanging. He was like, yeah, I just like
he's
went
on
to
the
bed
Irish grind.
late. Yeah, he was like, I went to bed super late, stayed on UK time, just went to bed, and then woke up late since the race was kind of like later in the evening. And they were talking about streaming, and Checo goes, you should get Disney Plus or something. He's like, I'm actually paying for that. Checo goes, oh, for Penelope? He goes, yeah. I thought it was so funny. I was like, we're in the middle of a press conference, and they're just like talking about Disney Plus and talking about Penelope and whatnot. But I thought that was funny. I think besides the Haas point, all of the constructors stayed the same. And any final thoughts on this race before we get into predictions for next race?
Another day, another Max win. On to Australia.
I was going to say pretty much the same thing. Fundamentally, again, just the fact that the battle for the lead was nothing. Fundamentally, it's a boring race, but because of the things that were happening in the middle of it, he was kind of cool. So, I don't know. I was like giggling just watching Magnussen hold all those cars up. That's all I can say. So,
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was a ton of fun to see that. I was glad Bierman did a good job. Like, he did everything he needed to do, kind of, proved himself, like, exactly what he needed to do. Also, I just wanted to brag a little bit here.
Ooh.
Is that in our Lights Out latest fantasy league, I'm in first. So,
wow.
good luck, guys. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's
well, fun fact for everybody. Yeah, I was going to say one little thing. I don't know if you're going to you might be saying the same thing as I'm going to say. But, so our group had talked about, I had said, at least, this is in behind closed doors. I was like, I'm picking up Carlos Sainz. Like, he is going to for sure be leading my team. I hate my team right now. And then I didn't do it because I'm lazy. Thank God I didn't, because obviously what happened. But this is like after last weekend.
Yeah.
Marina, I'm assuming you were going to mention about the same thing. I was
going to mention Carlos Sainz. I was going to say that I as soon as he was out and FP3 was ending, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have Carlos on my fantasy team. I have to get rid of him. The problem is I made changes to my team earlier in the week, And if you make more than 2 changes a weekend, you lose points. So I lost points for getting rid of Carlos Sainz. So in my defense, I am 2, and I did lose, I think, 10 or 20 points for driver transfers this weekend. So,
Jason, how many points do I have?
I'm pulling up the league. Yeah, no, I think you're like 3rd or something.
Golly.
Let me see.
Really?
The current standings are me, Marina, Tristan, and Steven. So I'm on 366. Marina's 342. Tristan is 174.
Golly,
and
what the hell?
Steven is 161. So
Yeah,
Oh,
I totally
it's
forgot to
because-
take out science.
it's because who is this?
we both have, Max is getting us like 70 points a race.
Yeah, no. Tristan,
Cheat code.
Aston Martin, Gasly, Ricardo,
Oh,
Albon.
God.
Like that's I don't know. You need to do a little bit of
Ashley needs to
shuffling.
go. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got some work to do. Yeah.
All right. Quote of the day. I did preface team by saying that from now on, quote of the day will be from the specific track, whether that be from this year or from years prior. But it will be from that specific track. So, Jetta quote of the day: "The track is like Mario Kart."
Oh my god.
Leclerc.
Wow.
It happened during free practice.
Yes, it did. He also said, I think it was the same quote. He was like, "There's plastic bags flying everywhere."
Which I heard that one.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yep.
Golly.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode. If you want more from us, we have Tech Tuesday, Wag Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, and Man on the Street videos, including a day in the life from Jeddah this weekend. If you want to check out what a day at the track is like, make sure to check that out on our Instagram and TikTok at Lights Out Latest. And of course, the podcast episodes every Monday at 11:30 Eastern Time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.